Fellow lovers of love, and thank you for joining us on yet another excursion through the stream of consciousness down the river of tranquility to fill the lake of life with love.
And good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me and Lubby tonight on a night where we're discussing forgiveness. And forgiveness is a strange thing because we often misunderstand who forgiveness is for. And it's an understandable misunderstanding because in a sense you forgive somebody else, but it's really for you. So we're going to talk about that this evening. But before we do, we want to let you know you can always find us in all our shows at latenightLove.us. You can send me and Lubby your questions and comments and whatnot at love@latenightLove.us, and you can find us on all your favorite social media and podcast services. And if you can't find us there, let me know. So, I think we got through all that.
Yes.
I think we got through all that.
Your hair looks great, by the way.
Yeah, it looks a little green, I think, on the screen. Well, maybe not. I think it cleared up. Anyway, me and this new streaming service are still arguing over getting this green screen right. Anyway, let's talk about forgiveness. I need to forgive this stupid green screen for not working right. But we were talking about how often when I do these shows, that they're often kind of a reflection of the mood I'm in, the headspace, whatever it is I'm thinking about. And it was a reflection because this week, Lubby's been putting together these shows in the last couple weeks, and probably for the next couple, because I'm just going to be busy. So the question is these shows a reflection of Lubby's headspace for the
Yes.
for the day, for the week?
I had something come up. An ex-husband. It was 35 years ago. 35 years I've been carrying this around. I apologized to him for my faults. And I never got an I'm sorry from him. And I have been carrying this around, and it's just finally dawned on me that I am never going to get an I'm sorry out of this man. It's just not going to happen. I'm so stubborn. I think I can make it happen.
35 years later. Maybe.
Maybe it's not working.
Well, and the thing is the point of forgiveness isn't to forgive them. It's so you have to stop carrying this around.
Yeah, I think I have some writing to do.
I mean, because the point of forgiving isn't so that he doesn't care. He's off doing his own thing. It's not impacting his life.
Oh, he's moved on. He's remarried. He's happy.
And so you're the one carrying this burden around. And so in a sense, your forgiveness is more for yourself. But in order in order for it to work for yourself, you have to let it go. Otherwise, you're still carrying it around. Why do you want to carry around extra stuff in your pockets? It's like walking around with rocks in your pockets. Why?
Okay, now full disclosure, I have been in counseling for working on forgiving this man. It was a violent marriage. I have been working on forgiving this man on various occasions. I've worked on this issue, and I thought I put it to bed. I thought it was done. I thought I'm finished. But no.
You're still carrying it around.
I have more work to do.
You're still carrying it around. Well, and the point is, forgiveness isn't forgetfulness. It's not the same thing.
No, and we cover that in our articles.
So forgiveness isn't forgetfulness. It's so you can put it away. It's so you no longer have to. It's so it's no longer affecting your life anymore. That's the point.
Yes. No more headspace.
Yeah, I mean, it's like renting.
Free rent.
Free rent.
In my head.
and has no impact on their life whatsoever. So it's not.
But it should.
But if it did, then he wouldn't be in this spot in the first place. So, and so a lot of people do. They get hung up on the, well, I don't want to forgive them because they don't deserve forgiveness. But if you don't, you're still going to carry it around.
It's not about him.
Yeah.
I had to forgive him for that a long time ago, for being a jerk. For being that wounded animal that he doesn't know how to act in a relationship.
Yeah.
He's not equipped.
And as adults, we are responsible for it. But at some point,
he's still responsible for his behavior. Yes, I understand where he's coming from, but he's still responsible for his behavior.
But at some point, you have to move on. And in order to do that, you have to say, well, I'm forgiving him, so it doesn't have to sit in my head anymore. Because otherwise, it's just going to sit in your head. And that's the whole point. So we have an article we're going to go cover here today. Let me get that. So how to forgive someone that deeply hurts you.
Okay, and she states, it's important to state that forgiving someone does not make what they did right. You are not saying it's okay.
No, it's not about being okay. It's not about saying that it's okay. It's not even necessarily saying that, your relationship can move on. The relationship still ended. But, as we're finding out, it's about something else. So what is that? So let's go through this first one.
Okay, step 1. You can't truly forgive unless you have grasped the extent of the violation that has been done against you. And sometimes it's helpful. Self-help books are great, but I needed a counselor. Counselors are great because they know all the little nuances, and they pointed out things I would talk about, and they would explain, oh, that's this, that means that's this and this and this. There's actually terms for it. And they would explain about it and how I could expect how it might impact my life and what I could do to mitigate that.
Yeah, so it's okay. Yeah, so it's not the violation. It's not about the violation. It's so you can move on. That's kind of the point of that. Okay, step 2.
Write down the name of the person you have chosen to forgive. Underneath that name, think of the many things you have done for which you need forgiveness and write them down. When we realize how much we need to be forgiven for all the wrongs we have done, it makes it easier to show some mercy on those who have hurt us. Well,
there's a limit to that, though.
I believe in owning your part.
Yes. But it's not the same thing as, but again, say, all right, I'm not a perfect person either. So it's, there's.
Well, I try to look at them as a child. How did they get to this point?
Yeah, understanding where they are. But, again, you're dealing with adults, and so adults are supposed to be responsible for their actions. But,
that doesn't excuse them. It just makes it easier for me to wrap my head around it and accept that these are just flawed human beings, just like I am, trying to figure it all out.
And I suppose if you can relate to yourself as a flawed human being, you can remind yourself that, hey, I am myself flawed. That needs forgiveness from others, then makes it a little easier for you to not sit on your high horse, shall we say, in so much judgment. Yeah. Even when judgment isn't necessarily deserved. But, we all need forgiveness at some point or another, right? None of us are angels. None of us. So there's, I guess the point is, making sure that you're not sitting too high and mighty on your throne, right? I suppose. And And then step 3 is realizing forgiving others is a spiritual, supernatural exercise. Well, not whether it's spiritual or supernatural, but it's for you.
And they bring up God, and that you need God's help. And if you're religious, I suppose this could really be useful for you. There's a lot of passages in the Bible about forgiveness, and that could bring some comfort and maybe some tools.
Well, and even if you're
old wisdom and all that.
Hey, even if you're more of the scientific minded, there's studies and data to show that forgiveness relieves your stress, and your stress, and the less stress you have, is the healthier you are as a human being. So, whether it's religion or science or philosophy, it all lines up. The learning to be forgiven, it helps you transcend your own humanity.
Yes.
Right. So let's see. Step 4. It's time to make the big decision to surrender. Let go of your desire to get even. Let go of those desires to force the other person to do things that you can't control. And,
Yeah, I can't force him to humble himself, which is what I want, damn it.
Yeah, but
just to me, for what he did.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen.
But it's not going to happen.
And it's one of those things, it wouldn't be as satisfying as you think it would be, even if it did.
Probably not.
Because then you just find something else to be mad about. Why it took so long. Or whatever. And so if you haven't fundamentally forgiven, if you don't have the ability to forgive, then it's
he irritates me just breathing.
Don't see. There you go. Yeah, maybe you do have some forgiveness stuff to work on there, my dear. For yourself. Step 5. Make a choice to have compassion
on your violator. Look at them first as a tragedy. Yep.
That's what you've been talking about.
I talked about that.
You see the path that they've had to go through. And if you know somebody deeply, you can actually understand how they got the way they are. I mean, I have my own experience with that. I can completely understand how people in my past were the way they were. It makes sense. Knowing the history,
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you ultimately, and the same thing, I've got my own long list of faults. So it's hard to throw stones as well, Yeah, I'm a seriously flawed human being as well. And so it's hard to throw stones. And so in that kind of sense, forgiveness is a little easier. Because it has to work both ways.
Yes.
So whether you get it or not, it's in order for you to move on. Again, we keep going back to that. In order for you to move on, it's not about the other person, actually. It's about
you piss me off sometimes.
Well, yeah, hello. This flawed piece of meat. What are you expecting to happen? There's the whole cookie incident.
But you talk to me. You answer questions.
Yeah. Hey, we could discuss the cookie incident, the great cookie incident.
We could, and I'm still pissed off.
Yeah, well, if you want a cookie, go buy one. All right.
It was 420. All the dispensaries were giving out free product. And we were going around, and we were getting free product. And they asked him if he wanted a cookie, and he said no. And I'm like, what the hell?
You already had enough cookies. You didn't need another one.
It was free.
So, I like being a good citizen. So there. All right.
6, move on.
Leave it for somebody else.
I know, that was 7 years ago. It's time to move on.
It was more than 7, by the way. Because you're 12. That was like in the first year and a half. So.
Oh God, really?
Yeah. So you're still carrying that thing around, by the way. Of course, so am I. So I brought it up. So wait. See, even Wes, we still have our stuff. All right. So So move on. Yes. No, this is step 6. Whatever we're on. Step 6 is move on. Not
Move
that we're
on.
just moving on from the topic, even though both of those are a good suggestion. It's time to make the concerted effort to stop dwelling. And the only way you can stop dwelling is that's it.
Yes.
You can't do it the other way.
So I like this last paragraph. In conclusion, forgiving someone who has hurt you could be the greatest challenge of your life. It is one. But if you choose to forgive, you will join those who are not being destroyed by bitterness, anger, hurt, or other toxic emotions.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Ah. I'm playing with my stuff over here. It's getting all screwy. Okay.
All right.
So that's
It's pretty powerful.
well, the point of by itself, it's not enough. You have to understand the whole point of forgiving somebody else. It's not about them, and this is what this next article actually kind of helps us with. It's because it's about yourself. All this isn't about the other person, and I think that's what we need to kind of drill through people's heads on this. This is about you. It's not about the other person. If the other person cared as much as you would like them to, you wouldn't be in this situation. Right? Because they would already apologize. They would have already themselves taken the steps to work on this. And so you're the only one that's being harmed by your carrying this around. You're the one carrying around the extra rocks in the backpack of your life, right? And so forgiveness is about taking those rocks and putting them out, getting them out of your backpack. And I get it. Some rocks are tougher than others, but you can whittle it down until maybe it's a pebble.
I'm getting there.
It used to be a big boulder. Now it's a little pebble. These things don't have to be overnight.
Hey, my oldest daughter was going to visit him, and I told her to tell the old man hello.
See, it's you whittle these things down. So let's not judge ourselves because you don't forgive overnight. It may take 30 years, and if it does, so what?
I'm working.
But that's what it takes.
It's been progress, so I'm all right.
And the same type of progress is about working on yourself. So our next one is 9 how to forgive yourself, 9 tips for self-forgiveness. And so learning how to forgive yourself, it actually might be harder than learning how to forgive other people. Because first you have to be honest with yourself. That's hard. Because a lot of people like to not tell themselves the truth. And it's understandable, right? We try to protect ourselves for all kinds of reasons. But life is hard. We all make mistakes, and we all go through periods of our lives where we're not who we want to be. I don't think there's any one of us who's always been the person we wanted to be. Sometimes we don't even know the person we want to be. And so when you start getting closer to the person you want to be, and you look past the things you've done in your life, and you go, I wasn't necessarily the person I thought I was. No, you were becoming the person you thought you were. And so part of that process is, learning how to forgive yourself. So number 1 is remember that mistakes are learning experiences. And we've got this from, where's the website we got this from, by the way? Choose Therapy?
Yes.
Okay. So mistakes are learning experiences, in a sense,
you learn about yourself.
Yes, well, and learning doesn't stop just because we're no longer children.
Well, no. We're always growing. When we're growing, we're changing.
Well, I hope that fan isn't making too much noise.
I hope so.
Hold on. I just never changed.
Okay, there we go.
No, well, hopefully the website fixes that fan noise. We'll have to see. I may have to cut the first part of this show off, but we'll see. So, all right, so we're going to go. I'm going to do this just in case because I don't want to go back and check it out. We're talking about forgiving yourself and how forgiving yourself is the best way to move forward in your life, right? That's how you start becoming the person you want to be, because we all make mistakes in our lives, and we all spend times in our lives where we're not who we think we are, or later on we realize we're not who we thought we were. We're inexperienced. Just face it. In our 20s, we're inexperienced. We do all kinds of dumb things, and when we're in our 40s, we look back and we go, "Geez, I did all kinds of dumb things." And it wasn't always a very nice human being. And and the truth is, even in your 40s, you make dumb mistakes. They're just different. And so forgiving yourself for these mistakes is actually how you learn from them, but you have to first start with being honest. And so mistakes are learning experiences, but you can only learn from things if you're honest about them. Okay? And number 2 is give yourself permission to process. And that's about, to make the mistakes and learn to deal with it in a healthy way. And some of these things take time.
Sometimes that means taking a step away from it, they mentioned.
Yeah, sometimes you have to gain perspective, right? And just like sometimes when you're working on a hard project and you get stuck, or you get writer's block or whatever it is, and you have to step away for a few days and to come back a little bit refreshed, go on a vacation or whatever. Same thing's true for working on yourself. You can exhaust yourself. Okay, so what's number 3, Lubby?
And I swear my mind works on things while I sleep.
Well, yeah, I think, isn't that theoretically what dreams are for?
Yes.
I don't know, but I don't know how true that actually is. I think dreams are a mystery. Sometimes it works on things, sometimes it doesn't. Who knows? Okay, what's number 3?
Own the mistake. There's nothing quite like owning up to your mistakes. By owning up to your mistake, you're taking power back from the mishap and can redirect that energy into making it better.
Yeah. Well, that's and you have to be honest with yourself in order to own the mistake. And it's hard. We don't want to pretend that any of this stuff is easy. But it being hard is what means it's valuable.
And if the mistake has affected another person, perhaps a sincere apology can help mend what was said or done.
And I want to go from my own personal experiences. Sometimes you feel something is a mistake that others don't. And if you apologize for it anyway, they respect you even more. And you explain why you think it was a mistake, and then you apologize to them for it anyway. It earns respect. Because it shows that you're thinking of other people, even if they disagree.
You care about the relationship.
Yeah, even if they necessarily, well, you don't need to apologize for that. It's perfectly, you might say it's perfectly understandable. Well, no, but I didn't meet my own standards, and so, and so it's okay to apologize for things that other think. You're not. So other people's standards aren't what you're reaching for. You're reaching for yours. It's okay to have higher standards than other people have for you. It's perfectly acceptable. And it's perfectly acceptable to apologize for not meeting your standards. And you can also help raise the standards of other people that way. We talked about leadership a few weeks ago. This is one of these things, owning your own mistakes is a way of showing leadership for yourself and for others. Okay, challenging yourself is number 4.
Okay, it's easy to beat yourself up when you're already feeling down, but have you spoken to yourself with compassion? What would your inner monologue say back? How would you feel? How would you handle the aftermath of the mistake any differently?
Yeah. Again, holding yourself to higher standards. I guess we kind of Covered that one. So number 5 is call yourself out.
When you're trying to forgive yourself but have doubts about whether you deserve to be forgiven, call yourself out the way you'd call out a friend who is doubting themselves. It's important that you remain your biggest supporter.
Yeah, well,
It's really easy to slip into beating yourself up.
well, the question is would you forgive your best friend or your sister or would you forgive somebody else for what you did? If the answer is yes, then you have room to forgive yourself. Again, doesn't mean you're not holding yourself to high standards, but it means that you're being realistic about you being human. And one of the ways to hold yourself to being high standards is acknowledging when you fail to hit those high standards. And one of those reasons you do that is because no one likes to point out that they fail to hit their own standards. You get to make the stupid standard. Right? So when you're making the standard, it's hard to complain about the rest of the world holding you to these standards. But it's also good for us to have high standards. And so, whether we hit them all the time or not is almost not relevant. It's the attempt. It's the honors in the attempt. Okay, taste your own medicine. Do you have friends that give great advice but rarely listen to it? Yeah, I'm great at giving advice. I'm terrible at taking my own advice, to be honest. That's a terrible human trait. You find all kinds of excuses to not take your own advice, which is fine, except until you get frustrated for other people not taking your advice. Turn off the negative thoughts. Now, I always hate this kind of turn them off, like you can just turn them off with this, like a light.
Well, what they're talking about is be cautious of the loop, getting in a thought loop where you replay the event over and over and over again in your mind.
Yes, replaying. Now, being cautious of the thought loops but you can't just turn these things off. You have to be mindful of them, and when you start noticing the negative thought loops, to give yourself something else to think about. Try. And again, accept the fact that it's one of those things you're never going to be completely great at, because it's just not possible, but you can work on it. Feel all your feelings. This is the one men especially have difficulty with, is we try not to feel all our feelings. But you have to. You don't become trapped by them. It's a strange thing, is not feeling your feelings actually traps you by them. It's not allowing your feelings to work themselves through, allowing them to be felt and giving yourself the opportunity to work through them actually allows you to work through them. If you don't, you don't. And so, you're just creating this bundle of confused mass. And so, practice feeling your feelings. Of course, I'm one of those people who cry at the drop of a hat. So, I'm one of those teary people who will cry at all kinds of things. So, didn't used to be, though.
No, you've gotten soft in your old age.
No, I allow myself now to feel my feelings.
Yay.
So that's just...
I'm sorry, that was very rude.
So, number 9, we're not even saying. So, number 9 is talk to a therapist. And, we always talk about having counselors or talking to therapists or, seeking a professional. It's a common theme for us here. It's, and it doesn't actually necessarily have to be a therapist. It can be your rabbi or your priest or, your spiritual advisor, as it will be. Anybody who you trust, a life coach. Anybody who can help you gain perspective on yourself and the world. Anybody who can be honest with you and help you reflect and help you work through your own thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Not people who try to impose their thoughts, feelings, and emotions on you. You want people who can work these things on their own, on your own, who help you work through these things on your own. Okay, so, and can you forgive yourself for the unforgivable? And that's, you're going to have to. Otherwise, you're just going to live in shame for the rest of your life. And that's how people end up in desperate places. So the question is, can you forgive yourself for the unforgivable? Is you actually have to. Now, doesn't mean you don't accept the consequences that will naturally come from that, depending upon the unforgivability of your thing. But you do at some point have to forgive yourself for it. Otherwise, you end up in places that's very dark, and it's harder to get, that's how you get stuck in that kind of mindset rather than moving past it. So I don't know. So in terms of, learning to forgive ourselves and learning to forgive others, it's one of those things that we don't want to do because it's hard. But if we don't do it, we damage ourselves. We don't hurt other people, we hurt ourselves. And so the reason to learn to forgive, so you can become the better human being that we're all trying to be. Okay, Lubby, what do we have on tap for questions tonight? Now, we did a nice trick tonight because we didn't, I haven't looked. These are nice cold, taking these questions cold. So, what do we got?
Okay, here we go. I've been dating my boyfriend, 28-year-old male, for just under 8 months. He works in a small industry. He makes $60K a year. That's a lot. Which, of course, is an impressive salary and a massive achievement in his field. And I'm genuinely proud of what he has done. He is from a small town with small town values. Everything was going great until recently. We have a lot in common. We get along well. Money has never been an issue until now, and I've always insisted on paying for dates 50-50. Yesterday he said he was uncomfortable with how much more money I made than he did. He said I should slow down my career so I could be at home more often and to let him be the man of the house. I was honestly speechless, and I have been staying at my sister's ever since. At this point, I'm strongly considering leaving. I've been through similar situations with exes. Any ideas on how to get this to stop happening?
Well, one, make sure your intentions are, wants, needs, and desires are clear at the start of the relationship. So at some point in the later, this doesn't happen. So it's more clear up front about what you want out of life and your career. But two, work through it. You can't work through it if you don't. And if you've gone and gone off to your sister's house, then you aren't giving yourself or him a chance to work through his feelings. What you need to do here is actually work together as a team and help him understand what he's actually feeling. He's feeling a bit insecure. And, running off to your sister's house isn't going to solve that insecurity. He's feeling insecure. He's feeling like he's not enough. He's got these what you call small town values, which, he doesn't know any better yet, or he doesn't know any different yet. Maybe that's a better way to put it. And when you find out you're making more money than him, it's not something that culturally he understands. So he needs help working through it. And you haven't helped him work through it. And this is part of a long-term relationship. You have to help people work through these kind of things. And if you don't think there's parts of you that he's had to help you work through, then you don't understand long-term relationships. But maybe you can't work through it. Maybe it's a deal breaker. But you're never actually going to find out until you can actually start to work through it. What's the real issue? Is he just want a family and, he thinks a stay-at-home parent is a family? Okay, well, I make more money and my career has more higher potential, so why can't you stay home and raise the kids? It's a highly rewarding thing. You can and work through it. Find out what the real issue is, because you never know. Once you walk through these things, once you have people are able to walk through their feelings on these things, they can actually change once they understand them. But my guess is he doesn't understand them. He's just instinctively reflecting what his culture has taught him. There's nothing wrong. I mean, that's not a flaw. That's just the reality of human existence. So, my suggestion would be to go back and see if you can, work through the actual feelings, not the superficial feelings, the actual feelings that are underlying it, the insecurities that are underlying it. Maybe you can't work through it, but maybe you can. And if it keeps happening, this is something you're clearly going to have to learn to deal with because you're not dealing with it. And so maybe it's time to actually start dealing with it. Maybe the flaw is what you're looking for. You want a more traditional man who treats you in a more traditional way, while at the same time not wanting to deal with the consequences of that. And maybe it is. Maybe he just thinks that he's thinking of a family at this stage. He's thinking about, the long-term effects of, let's face it, we all kind of see in the world around us, it's better if there is someone home raising the children while another person is out, earning the income. Now, who it is that's staying home and raising the children and who it is that's out earning the income isn't necessarily all that relevant, but, so if you're the best provider, have that discussion. Just have the actual discussion. You're going to have to work through your feelings. Why are you so opposed to it? I'm not saying you need to change your mind, but work through your own feelings. Why do you have such a knee-jerk reaction to what is a perfectly, for most of human history, a perfectly rational perspective? I'm not saying you should change your mind. I'm just saying maybe you should find out why you had such a knee-jerk reaction to it that you ran off to your sister's house. Seems a bit extreme. Unless there was a big blow-up fight or something, but it didn't sound like there was a big blow-up fight. So anyway, I'm just suggesting deal with it.
Okay.
One way, but you're not going to deal with it at your sister's house. Okay, what's next?
My 20-year-old female boyfriend, 23-year-old male, and I have been together for 3.5 years, and he dialed me last night while talking to his friends about other girls' bodies. And then he made a comment, if this girl shows up tonight, he's fucking her. I don't know how he called me. What do I do now?
Well, how he called you was a butt dial type thing. Right? You're on his list and he butt dialed you. And what do you do now is, well, it's up to you. But I wouldn't be happy if I'd heard that phone conversation. I mean, you're going to have to deal with that. Now, is it possible he's just kind of bragging on something that was never going to happen? It's possible. But, you're 23, 22. What is it, 22? Yeah, 23.
23.
Yeah. That's at the edge of that kind of stuff. That's frat house behavior. You can kind of excuse it in college. Kind of, but I don't know. My guess is there's other signs in the relationship that are probably signaling it's run its course. That's what I would assume. The relationship is simply run its course. 23, 3.5 years. It's run its course. At this age, if you're not, at this point, at 3.5 years, if you're not at least relatively committed, then, it's 3.5 years. It's not 3.5 months.
It's wild.
And I don't know how long it takes to find yourself in a committed relationship, but I know it's shorter than 3.5 years. It's probably longer than 3 months and probably shorter than 3.5 years. So it's run its course. For me, that's what the signal would be. It's run its course. It's just become comfortable. For both of you, it's probably just become comfortable. You're in the relationship because you're in the relationship. But you're young enough now where, it's not a permanent thing. And clearly, he's not thinking of it as a permanent relationship. And if you were looking for a permanent relationship, it's time to go look for it. Would be my suggestion. At least what you think about. Okay.
I'm happily married, and I feel like my husband is one of the only people on the planet who gets me and loves me for who I am. The rest of my relationships, I just feel unlikable. Like there is something I put out into the world that I'm unaware of that causes people to want to avoid me. I've never really had the proverbial BFF whose family is like mine and vice versa. I'm always a fringe friend. Work is the same way. I see cliques of coworkers and I feel like I'm excluded, talked down to, and treated like I don't belong. After 35 years, it is wearing on me greatly. I'm lonely. I have incredible social anxiety now. I prefer spending time by myself, which of course doesn't help anything. I literally don't know what to do that is off-putting to others. I think I'm friendly, albeit quiet. I try to let people know I care. I try to help if I see a coworker struggling. I smile at people when I see them and say hello. Maybe I'm unknowingly abrasive. I don't know.
Well, it's entirely possible. The person to ask would be your husband. That's the person you need to ask this question to. And he's gonna resist answering it because he's gonna be afraid that it's gonna hurt you. But you're gonna have to get through to him that it's gonna hurt you more to not. And you're gonna have to be prepared to hear something you don't want to hear. And not take it out on the poor man. Maybe there's not. But there's some social skill you didn't learn, and it's interacting with your ability to interact with other people. Maybe you're trying too hard, and people see that as phoniness. I know maybe something silly. Maybe you've got one of those voices that just rubs people wrong, and it's got nothing really to do with you as a person. It's just, that happens. Someone can have a real squeaky voice and it just irritates people or something. It happens. So there's, maybe your attempts to participate seemed like interjecting yourself. I don't know. It's too hard to see, but there are things you can do, especially if you've developed a social anxiety disorder. There's there's classes and therapies and therapists and behavior modification therapies that you can go through and try. And essentially at this point, it's like if you become a fear of flying, you now have a fear of social situations. So you approach it from the same way. Get professional help. Ask your husband what he thinks and get professional help in solving the problem. If it's that bothering you that deeply, it will be worth it. Because not doing it will cause you more damage than the few $100 it's going to cost you to take a couple classes or to go to Toastmasters or whatever whatever you program it is you try to do to help you get more comfortable in social situations. But it's okay not to have a close BFF. It's not actually that unusual. One of the reasons people who have that stick out like a sore thumb is because most people don't actually have one. They have their spouse as their best friend. So it's perfectly acceptable. But if it's bothering you, then you can do something about it. And maybe join something that's a local sports rec league. You have this, like here in Sacramento, they have what is it? They go off and they play things like kickball or whatever, and then go off drinking. So if that kind of thing is your thing, go off and join one of those things. Where you're engaging in a recreational activity where everything's nice and light and nothing serious. And,
volunteer work.
well, but I was keeping the stuff light and keep it light. Start light. Start where there's no expectations. That would be my suggestion.
Well, I was thinking somebody with common interests.
Yeah, but like you and your husband go join a kickball league or something. Bowling team or something. And the point isn't to be competitive. The point is to, interact with people in a low stress, no stress environment where everybody's there just for purely having fun. Work environment, people are there to work, and weird stuff happens. And social things, people are trying to be social. Just go somewhere where people are just having fun. But it's bothering you. Talk to a professional, therapist, behavior counselor, something like that. Okay.
My significant other's 14-year-old son is borderline autistic. His son lives with his mom, and the mom doesn't care for the child at all. He has no sense of personal hygiene or care for anything other than video games and hanging out with his friends. My question is, how do we get this personal hygiene on an acceptable level?
Well, he's 14, so that's personal hygiene issues at 14-year-old boys is not actually uncommon, regardless. And it's one of those things that will cure itself. Quite frankly, his friends will take care of it. You don't have to do anything. You don't. And if his mother's, you're not going to be able to do anything anyway, because his mother's the one whose standards he has to meet. So anything you want to do, you're going to have to do in a way that's not forceful. Because the minute you try to push, you're just going to get resistance. So you have to figure, if you're going to do this, you have to do it in a way that it's not, you're not pushing. I'm not exactly sure how to do that because 14-year-olds are the unique beast. Each 14-year-old is unique, but you're gonna have to find a way to to exert influence without being forceful, so you don't get any pushback. He's 14, he's interested in girls. Girls like guys that smell good. Of course, you may have to put up with having Axe smell around your house, but hey, better than body odor smell. But 14-year-old boys stink, so it's just what they do. It's just so part of that is just that. There's no good answer here. There's just not, because you're not the one who has control over it. So your influence has to be subtle. And so you can drop hints and recommendations and explain why, but you're gonna have to do that in ways that he's gonna care about. And, hygiene don't matter much in video games, but it does matter hanging out with your friends, and it does matter with girls. So kindly point that out to him when you have opportunities arise. Especially if it's autistic, you don't want to push too hard because you'll get more resistance and you'll actually end up worse off. So whatever you choose be subtle. I don't have a good answer on that one because I don't know the child, and that's when you have to be so specific and unique. Okay, so what's next?
I'm basically a single mom to two boys, a 13-year-old male and a 4-year-old male, but this mainly has to do with my oldest. He lurks around when I'm on the phone, and if there's any mention of money, he is wanting to know what is it about, how much, when I'm going to buy such things, even if I'm just talking and have no intentions of buying anything. Granted, we struggle. I mean, who is not nowadays? But he is always telling me when I get some money, I should upgrade this, I should do that, Why ain't I doing this? How do I get this kid out of my wallet?
How old was he again? 14?
He's 13.
13. You tell him to knock it off. Remember, at 13, kids think wallet comes from the ATM machine still. Man, they don't really understand about money. And so if he wants upgrades, you're going to have to get him to earn it. You can still go out with mow lawns. There's nothing you can really do at that age. They just don't understand money. There's nothing you can tell them. They're not going to get through their head. They don't listen to you. At 13 years old, you just have to tell them no. Knock it off. Or, the more you bug me, the less you're going to get. This is one of those ways to deal with it. So, you might have gotten that until you opened your damn mouth, and now you're not. But that's not a very kind way to deal with it. But at 13, they don't respond well to 13-year-old children. They think they know the world, and but they know just enough of the world to know that they don't know anything. To know, it's kind of laughable.
It is really, if it weren't so annoying.
Well, it's funny for us because we don't have to deal with it anymore.
We're done.
Because that's why teenagers are exasperating. Because how do you get them out of your wallet? You don't. You just have to be comfortable telling them no. That's it. The only way to get them out of your wallet is to be comfortable telling them no. They feel that you're squishy with telling them no, then they're going to push. So the only way is to be comfortable saying no. Now, you know how I did that? Is anytime my kids would come up and say, "Hey, Dad, no. Now what do you want?"
You did too. I heard it.
All the time, yeah. I undercut their expectations right up from the start. Now, I'd tell them yes as often as I could, but everything started with a no. We didn't have a lot of money, so everything was starting with a no. You're going to have to convince me. That was just reality. It wasn't being difficult, or it was just cold-hearted reality. And so that's kind of how I did with it. Maybe that's, I don't know if that would work with your children or not. It worked with mine because you were raised by me. So, they were kind of prepared for it. So I don't know. But just become comfortable saying no, and then they push you less, would be my actual suggestion. They're like wild animals, man. They smell the fear. So be comfortable saying no. Yeah, that would be my thing. Stop apologizing for saying no, and you'll get a different response. Okay.
I have a 14-year-old daughter. She has absolutely zero interest in doing anything. If I let her, she would sit and watch TV for 18 hours straight. Today I had a long day at work, and she sat in front of the TV from 8 in the morning until almost midnight. I've tried to encourage her to take walks with me, garden with me, draw or read outside, and she complains the entire time and just hates it. Do I keep trying or let her be?
Well, at 14, this is all, again, perfectly normal. But keep trying.
Yep.
Keep trying different things. And some of these times she may be complaining. Doesn't mean she's actually complaining. You kind of have to read children's complaints uniquely. Sometimes children complain because they don't know what else to do. And so they complain, which is fine. And sometimes they complain because they're generally bored, which is fine. But, they'll appreciate these things later on. They just will. Now, the question is, how much the balance is where to draw, So, but keep trying. The last thing you want to do is stop trying. Keep finding things. Kids go through this. 14, she'll come in and out, in parts where she'll be closer, want to be closer to you. And then she'll go through periods of time where she's going to be farther away. It's going to evolve over the next few years. You're going to have to get used to it as much as she is. Just remember, they're going through massive hormones changes and massive, changes from, the carefree elementary schools where you're playing with Barbie dolls and Hot Wheels, to teenagerhood where you're starting to prepare for real life. It's a massive change. And it's not, when you're dealing with kids in those teenage years, there's a reason it's unsettling for us and for them, because it's unsettling. Their whole world is changing. I mean, their whole world has been changed, and now it's changing even massively more. And they're preparing for this big thing called adulthood in a few years. And they feel wholly unprepared for it. And they're right, because no one's prepared for adulthood. And so, have a little compassion, but keep trying. Keep trying different things. I don't know. Maybe try doing TikTok dances with her. Who knows? Just find something. Lots of parents do TikTok dances with their kids. Try something. Don't be afraid to be goofy. And, she's going to be mortified with no matter what you do, so it's okay. At this age, it just is what it is. Treat the complaints like the song of songbirds. They're beautiful, except when they wake you up in the morning. So, all right. So, what do you got?
Okay, one more, last one. I got a guy question.
All right.
This is really silly, but I'm too embarrassed to ask any of my friends. Why does my boyfriend keep asking me for nude pictures? I thought we had a great sex life.
Yeah. Those two things aren't related, by the way. Having a great sex life and I'm not understanding why you think the good sex life and not wanting to see you naked. Those are actually related things. He likes to see you naked. That's why he wants to need pictures. And whether you want to send it to him is a different question. The reason why he wants them is because he likes to see you naked. That's pretty obvious. And it's, in the modern world, I suppose, it's kind of a crass way to flirt. I don't know what the modern world is. In the old days, we used to flash people, right? Then we would,
Flip the top up.
That's what they did in the 80s. So, that's what they did in the 80s and 90s. It was, one of those jobs. So we didn't have this, couldn't send the pictures over the internet. We didn't have that. So, well, we did, but it took like 3 days. So no one did it. So, it was the flashing thing. Ain't nothing new under the sun. It's just how it accomplishes it is different. Now, why? It's a male thing. You don't have to comply. Tell them you don't like to. I mean, just be clear with them that it's not your thing. So I'll show you in person later is a nice response to that, right? If you think you have a good sex life. That's how I would respond to it. If you don't like to send nude pictures out, which is perfectly reasonable, right? Perfectly reasonable. I don't want to be sending nude pictures out on the internet. Shit has a way of going bonkers on the internet, right? Someone can hack an account, and next thing you know, you've got your boobs flopping around the internet. I get it. I completely understand. But, your response is, well, I'll show you later. Something like that. I don't understand why you would take it as a negative thing. I can understand not wanting to. That's understandable. No problem. I just don't understand why you view it as a negative. I don't know. But again, I'm the male brain. I like looking at you naked. Why would I not ask you for a picture?
Well, we don't understand why you'd want a picture over the real thing. Why can't you just wait for the real thing? Why do you have to have a picture?
Because I'm greedy. I want both.
Oh.
It's not like it's an either or question, woman. It's like I want both. I'm greedy. This isn't all that complicated. I don't understand. See, I think y'all trying. We're far simpler than you all think. You guys think this is a big, complicated thing. No. We're just greedy. We want both.
Video if you got it, right?
No, 2. All 3. You want to send us a recording as well? We'll take that. Sexy letter? Hey, knock yourself out. We want all of it. Why is that complicated? So y'all think it's something deeper than that. No, it's not. We're that simple. We're not proud of it, but it's what it is. And anyway, for me and Lubby, I want to thank you guys for joining us. That was a good one to end on, by the way. For me and Lubby, I want to thank you for joining us. You can catch us next Saturday. We're kind of gone to the hours, back to the hour Saturdays because my July is insane. And we will see you next Saturday. I'm suspecting it's going to be like 11 o'clock Pacific time.
Okay.
Because it may even be later than that.
We're going back to the late night.
Yeah, it's really going to be late night love for the rest of July. And until then, we will talk to you. Please remember to love everybody, and good night.
Bye.
Oh, wait. No, wait. I almost hit the wrong buttons again. Wait. All right, so we're going to do this again. Please remember to love everybody.
Bye.